Blacks or African Americans are saying in Japan, a lot of it comes from television.
And the majority of it is kind of bad.
And see, what does this have to do with Japan? You know what I mean? Like,
very strange questions or assumptions made about me because of the fact of me being Black.
I actually started hating white people. And there was, for a short time, I was actually very anti-white. As someone who really cares about Japan, I think putting Japan on that much of a pedestal does Japan disservice. Many of my problems have actually were from other Blacks. Because konnichiwa minasan, kyo desu. So in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to a video about Blacks' experience in Japan. I've reacted to a few of these kind of videos in the past, so it's interesting to see what this video has to say, or the Blacks in this video have to say about living in Japan. So without further ado, ikimashou.
When I moved to Japan, I was moving to Japan. It wasn't for a visit. I was ready to leave the United States. I was ready for a change.
I didn't leave because I was running away from anything. I left because I felt I could be more myself in Japan.
Living in Japan as an African American, I've honestly never felt more free.
You know, I can do things here in Japan that I can't do back at home in the US.
I can catch a cab when I'm not trying to catch a cab. People in stores that are supposed to serve you, serve you like they serve everybody else.
I know where this video is going. More so, I love Japan because it's not racist, but America is. That's the vibe I'm getting.
We were walking and we saw this courtyard was open and there were plants.
I was sitting on a bench. It's a little park near my house.
And an old man comes up and says, "Oh, hey, come on in."
And then there was a little old lady bent over, coming down the block.
And, you know, and he offers us free vegetables. And then he offers us some tomatoes. And he was just friendly and kind.
And she passed me and I said, "Kumbawa." And she looked up and she said, "Kumbawa." And she put her head down and kept it moving. She didn't turn around to see if I was behind her. She didn't care.
We didn't have to worry whether someone was going to call the police on us, that we were going to get shot, that we were going to get assaulted.
Because we've been trained, we've been programmed that people are afraid of us. But here, I really don't get that. I really don't get that. I feel good here.
America forces us, unfortunately, sometimes to live in terror, not just of police, but that America's the greatest country. You can only be successful here. I look at my home, I look at my family, I look at my friends, I look at my career, and I know that's a lie.
Really? Really? Okay.
Back home, I felt targeted.
Certainly. Less of a person, more of a threat.
They get out of the car and they say, they stop me.
It's a really tense situation, you know, when you see this white cop coming toward you, especially if it's two.
They say, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And they tell my friend Brad, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white fella, they say, "We don't want you, son. Leave."
I'm always extremely polite. Yes, sir. No, sir.
But I feel like no matter how I act, it's up to the officer of how my life is going to go after.
I feel intimidated. I feel scared. I feel like I need to carry myself perfectly.
2 more police officers, 4 police officers, just for me.
All right, so I gotta pause here for a second. To me, this is one of those videos that are basically the vibe I'm getting is that America is such a terrible place for Blacks that when they finally go to Japan, they finally live the lives that they wanted, where they can live in peace and tranquility without worry. And I think a lot of this is programmed to have Black people live in fear and to have a victim mentality. Not every Black person in the U.S. goes through this racist experience where it seems like all white people hate us and that we're always hated. by all, different kinds of races, and the white cops are just constantly hunting us, when the stats really prove that it's not. I mean, if you want to look it up yourself, you can look up FBI statistics, look up the CDC statistics. And what I don't like is that it places blacks in a place of victimization, where they make us believe that everyone else around us, especially white people, are better than us. And I don't think anyone is better than me at all. And in my experience, but my anecdotal experience, and many other blacks have said to me as well, is that many of my problems have actually were from other blacks, because I wasn't hood, because I spoke proper English and how I carried myself. I think there is racism in America, but not enough for you to live uncomfortably. I think a lot of blacks have been trained by our peers and by white liberals to think yourself as a victim, and we've kind of bought into this narrative, and it makes us weak, and it makes us fragile, and it makes us terrified of everything. And I think that there's greater powers at work to use blacks to kind of push this narrative that America is such a terrible and racist place, which I disagree. If we're talking about 60 years ago in the midst of Jim Crow and slavery, yeah, sure, I can say that. But nowadays, I don't think that's the case. And I think a lot of this is just propaganda to make you hate America and to make you hate white people. I digress. Let's continue. BLM. I thought so. And see, what does this have to do with Japan? You know what I mean? Like, there's not that much black people in Japan like that for them to care.
Racism in America has definitely kept me in Japan for a number of reasons.
And see, what this thing is doing is that it's like it infiltrates your mind to make you feel a certain way about the country you live in. And if that is, and it forces it, like it's forcing them to leave their country to feel safe in a foreign country. When honestly, if you're really being honest, most blacks are dangerous to other blacks, statistically speaking. Am I saying there's not racism? Of course there is. There's racism everywhere, but to a way that it will prevent you to the point where you can walk out your door and be in danger of getting shot or being stopped by police, that is far in between. If I live in certain black communities, I'm more afraid of being shot by my peers than being shot by cops or being arrested by cops or being tormented by cops. And I don't like this stuff because, again, it preaches victimization, and victims never prosper. But I'm not saying, I'm not discounting their experiences if they've had a great time in Japan. I'm not saying that, but I think it's wrong to kind of paint Japan as this utopia for black people where we can come and just live the lives we want. I think that's doing Japan a lot of injustice. But that's just me.
Decision to stay here, definitely, if I'm considering how I'm treated here in Japan compared to how I'm treated in America, that all of that definitely played a big part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did not intend to stay for 12 years, but here I am.
I became a Japanese citizen on May 25th, 2018.
Living in Japan as an African American is an interesting experience.
How Blacks or African Americans are seen in Japan, a lot of it comes from television.
And the majority of it is kind of bad. We're thugs. We're mammies. We're hoes or prostitutes. We're loud. We're angry.
But who's promoting that? If you look at black media, that's how we carry ourselves. Through our music, through our movies, through our content. We display ourselves like that. It's not that the white man is showing these untrue images of black people. We promote that stuff. You can't carry yourself a certain way, then be mad when people perceive you that certain way. When I went to Japan, I carried myself in a proper manner that was respectful, that wasn't intimidating. I spoke properly. I adopted the mannerisms because of that, I was respected. Imagine if I went to Japan, acting whatever kind of way. I can't be mad if the Japanese perceive me a certain way. Whatever race you are, make sure you represent your people the best you can. Because people's first impressions of you will last longer than any other impression. To me, I don't like the whole, oh, the white man is showing us to be this way, that's why people believe it. No, we do that.
Very strange questions or assumptions made about me because of the fact of me being Black.
But my job, and I've taken it very seriously, has been to dispel as many myths as possible.
Instead of getting angry, in the beginning, I was just kind of politely correcting people. Maybe you saw that on TV, it's not necessarily true.
Most of the time, it breaks down. It breaks down because ignorance breaks down. So yeah, in Japan, it's ignorance, and that I can deal with. That I've been dealing with my whole life.
Have I felt racial bias in Japan?
This is an extremely homogenous society. So I stick out like a sore thumb as a Black man.
I don't feel that I've been discriminated against because I'm Black. I do feel that I've been discriminated against because I'm foreign.
The worse you get in this country, if someone looks at you a little weird, or a kid will stare at you because they've never seen a Black person.
But overall, I don't feel racism here. I feel different, but I can't say it's racism.
That I agree
This is
with.
Japan's racism. It's like racism light. Like if you can bottle it up, you know, original, America, Japan, light with a lemon finish.
The only difference is that when someone sees me, there's not hate in their eyes.
I feel in Japan I'm treated with respect.
And I wouldn't have lived in Japan for 10 years if it wasn't positive.
And it's interesting because America is the land of the free.
But ultimately, the freedom to just live safely, that feeling of safety. If we look at our hierarchy of needs, that's at the base level. So to feel safe, to feel like I'm not threatened by those who are in authority, in authoritative positions, I think that's essential for anybody to live with peace of mind.
Do I see myself going back to America?
The answer to that question is no.
Absolutely not. I would never consider going back to America.
Being in America really was hard.
I don't hear great things happening for Black people back at home. So it makes me think maybe I am okay here.
Every time that I go back to the U.S. now, I feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel like home to me.
The answer was no.
I have more bandwidth to handle that in a more productive way than I would if I was in America.
Moving to Japan made me very aware of the fact that I'm a Black woman and I'm different from everyone here. And it made me prouder.
But I began to truly love who I am in Japan.
Do I feel that it's home? Not yet.
I do eventually want to go back to the US. That's my home.
Isn't that crazy? A place where I know that I'm not welcomed everywhere.
Your home is home, but you got this abusive mother or father, so it doesn't feel like home. So America is, I guess, my home. It's where I'm from. But it doesn't feel like home. I'm not relaxed when I'm there. For the most part.
Really?
Sad, but true.
There's really a lot I could say. I've said a lot already, but I'll try not to make this video too long, but yeah. The reason why sometimes videos like this kind of like irritate me is because part of my upbringing, a lot of these pro-Black beliefs believe that the white man basically is a devil and that Black people are oppressed, society hates us, and a lot of people in my family believe this. And in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement that originally happened in 2015, as someone who, in my experience, had more ills with African Americans than I had with whites, my personal experience didn't really say what a lot of my peers or what other blacks have been saying to me, constantly being told by everybody that white people are the devil. White people hate black people, we're oppressed. I actually started hating white people. And there was, for a short time, I was actually very anti-white. I hated white people. I thought that they were despicable. I thought that they hated me. Even when I was going out to even, for example, going to the grocery store, I used to think that every white person hated me. And for a time, I was miserable because of all that propaganda, all that reinforced black victimization inside of me. Sadly, a lot of our institutions and liberal leaders have conditioned blacks to hate this country, that for some people in this video, they actually moved to a whole different country because they believe that they were in danger living here. And most will tell you, for most black people, the most danger you will get is if you live in a really racist part of town where like there's actual racist white people, or you live in the projects where you have gangs and other blacks who are trying to kill you because of whatever reason. And videos like this don't serve black people well at all, because it keeps you in a state of hatred, bitterness, victimization, fear. That's not productive to your life, and I think a lot of times it's very disingenuous when people make Japan to come out to be this utopia where like I was discriminated against in America, but when I came to Japan, my life just got way better. And I think that as someone who really cares about Japan, I think putting Japan on that much of a pedestal does Japan disservice, because when you actually go there, you realize Japan is not perfect and that you probably will face a lot of problems because you're a foreigner. But I've talked about BLM in the past. We'll leave some links down below so if you want to check out those videos. But ultimately, I don't like videos like this. I think it does black people worse of a service. And I personally think these black people in this video, either they're trying to go with the narrative of what the producers are trying to say with this, or, they really believe that nonsense, about black people being, oppressed. But it's not a shock when mainstream media is constantly trying to reinforce that with black people. But anyway, I can go on ranting forever, but that's what I think. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Hontou arigatou gozaimasu. Minna, kiyotsukete. じゃあね。